You know, every time you stream a movie, jump on a video call, or fire off an email to another country, you are tapping into a secret network, one that's hidden deep, deep beneath the waves. So today, let's dive in and explore the incredible physical infrastructure that makes our digital world an actual reality.
So just stop and think about it for a second. When you send a message from, say, New York to London, how does it physically get there? What's the actual path it takes to cross the Atlantic?
The image that probably pops into your head is a signal beaming way up to a satellite orbiting the Earth and then beaming right back down. It feels clean, it feels futuristic, right? But here's the thing, that's not the whole story. It's not even close.
The reality is absolutely fascinating. A staggering 99%, yeah, you heard that right, 99% of all international data travels through physical fiber-optic cables that are laid on the ocean floor. Satellites, they handle less than 1%. It turns out the internet isn't really in the cloud, it's in the ocean.
And we're not just talking about your Netflix stream here. These cables are the absolute lifeblood of the global economy. An estimated $10 trillion in financial transactions race through these wires every single day. It's also why you can have that crystal clear, lag-free video call with someone on the other side of the planet. This hidden network is without a doubt one of the most critical pieces of infrastructure on the planet.
So let's pull back the curtain on this invisible lifeline. What exactly are these cables, and why are they so fundamental to our modern world?
At its core, an undersea cable is pretty much what it sounds like, a bundle of fiber optic threads stretched across the seafloor. The best way to think of them is as these massive, invisible superhighways for the internet, carrying our data as pulses of light between continents at, well, nearly the speed of light.
Okay, so what do these high-tech highways actually look like up close? I mean, how on earth do you build something that can survive the crushing pressure at the bottom of the ocean for decades?
The scale is just amazing. It really is. The entire cable, when it's out in the deep ocean, is only about as thick as a regular garden hose. But inside that, the actual optical fibers carrying all that data, each one is as thin as a single human hair. It's an absolutely incredible piece of engineering.
So let's peel back the layers. At the very center, the heart of it all, you've got those hair-thin optical fibers. They're protected by a copper tube, which does double duty. It also carries high-voltage power down the line for signal boosters. Then you get layers of steel wires for brute strength. And finally, the whole thing is wrapped in a tough polyethylene jacket to keep the salt water out. It's a high-tech sandwich, basically, designed to last for 25 years on the ocean floor.
Okay, so we've seen one cable up close. Now let's zoom out. And I mean way, way out. The scale of this entire global network is just mind-boggling.
Right now, there are over 1.4 million kilometers of active undersea cables snaking across the globe. Let me put that in perspective for you. That is enough wire to circle the Earth more than 35 times. It's literally a planetary-scale nervous system.
But like any network, this one has vulnerabilities. A lot of these vital cables get concentrated in really narrow geographic passages, what we call choke points. Take the Red Sea, for example. It's an absolutely critical corridor for almost all data traffic between Europe and Asia. Any disruption in one of these zones can cause massive, massive ripple effects.
Which brings us to our next question. What happens when things go wrong? Because even though they're sitting on the dark, quiet ocean floor, these cables face constant threats.
Now, you'd probably think the biggest dangers are things like undersea earthquakes or volcanoes, right? But the data shows something completely different and pretty surprising. Over 70% of all cable faults are caused by us, by human activity. Natural hazards, they account for less than 10%.
So what kind of human activity are we talking about here? Well, it's not as dramatic as you might think. The two biggest culprits, by a long shot, are ship anchors being accidentally dropped or dragged across the seabed, and commercial fishing gear, like huge trawling nets, snagging on the cables. It's the most mundane, everyday stuff that poses the biggest risk.
A perfect and pretty scary example of what happens when a connection is lost is the Tonga outage back in 2022. A massive volcanic eruption severed the single cable connecting the entire nation to the rest of the world. For 38 days, the country was plunged into a digital dark age, almost completely isolated. It's a really powerful reminder of just how dependent we are on these physical links.
So this all leads to a really big question. With all these new satellite networks like Starlink coming online,
Won't we just move past these vulnerable undersea wires? It's a great question. Let's take a look at how they really stack up.
When you put them side by side, you see they're really built for two totally different jobs. Undersea cables have absolutely massive capacity. We're talking terabits per second. It's like a fire hose of data. So they are perfect for the core internet backbone, connecting huge cities and continents. Satellites, on the other hand, are fantastic for reaching remote places, connecting things that move like planes and ships, and providing a critical backup when cables fail.
So the key takeaway here is that it's not a competition. It's not cables versus satellites. They're partners. Satellites are an essential complement to the cable network, filling in the gaps and making the whole system more resilient. But they simply cannot replace the sheer, raw, data-hauling power of that undersea fiber network.
And that leaves us with this final kind of beautiful and paradoxical idea. For all our talk about a wireless future, with Wi-Fi, 5G, and even satellites, the very foundation of it all is still firmly wired to the bottom of the ocean. The invisible network that makes our connected lives possible is hiding in plain sight, just under the waves.
Follow Axicode for more.